Teka muna! Sabado, alas 8 ng gabi. Teka muna! Sabado, alas 8 ng gabi.
Ngayong mabilis na nagbabago ang ating buhay dahil sa technology, mas mabuting mag-tech ka muna. Pero teka muna, sandali, bago kayo mag-click o mag-like o mag-share, dapat merong extra care. Ako po si Monisberto. Welcome sa isa na namang episode ng ating programang Tech Ka Muna. Tayo po ay live sa 1PH Signal TV Channel 1 and we can also be seen live and on demand sa Facebook page and YouTube channel ng 1PH. Ay naku, magandang gabi mga kapatid. Kamusta na po kayo? Tapos na po ang eleksyon and how are you all? Di ba? Even after these elections, marami pang mga isyong pinag-uusapan. At isa sa mga isyong talagang kumbaga kalat na kalat sa mga kababayan natin ngayon ay itong pagkalat ng disinformation. Largely through social media. Hindi ba? Kalat na kalat yung usapan tungkol sa mga trolls. Sino ba itong mga trolls nito? Saan ba ito? At gano'ng kalaki ba itong negosyo na tinatawag na troll farms? Kasi may nagsasabing malaking negosyo nito pero wala tayong makitang mga numbers o mga studies tungkol dito. So, pero ang larger question dito is ano bang naging epekto nitong disinformation sa social media dito sa ating eleksyon? At hindi lang sa eleksyon, maging sa ating lipunan. At siguro pinaka-importante, ano bang pwede natin gawin? No? Marami siguro pwedeng gawin, pero let's start with you as an individual, tayo as individuals. Ano bang pwede natin gawin kung harapin itong problema ng disinformation? Okay. Isa pang issue na sumulpot dahil sa eleksyon ay, aminin na natin, marami talagang na-stress out. No? Naggalit, nag-iyakan, nakipagtalo sa mga kaibigan o dating kaibigan at maging mga kamag-anak, kapamilya, nagtatalo tungkol sa politika at nagiging medyo matindi ang mga away. So ngayon, ang isang kailangan gawin ng mga kababayan natin ay siguro kailangan mag-distress. No? Ibaba natin yung ating emotional level. At paano gagawin ito? Yun naman ang pag-uusapan natin sa pangalawang interview natin in this episode. Okay. Sige. Magsimula tayo sa unang paksa. Pag-usapan muna natin itong issue ng disinformation at mga troll. And to help us in this discussion, swerte tayo joining us from way out there in Boston, Massachusetts in the United States of America. We have a researcher mula sa Harvard and he is now an associate professor at the University of Massachusetts. Pero Pinoy na Pinoy ito, he studied at the Ateneo. I think he graduated at summa cum laude pa yata, taking up communications, which is why he's become an expert in this subject. Let's ask him to join us, Dr. Jonathan Corpus Ung. Jonathan, please join us.
Hello, nice to be here.
Hi, thank you, Jonathan, for taking your time. Anong oras na ba ngayon dyan? Baliktad kayo, hindi ba?
So gabing-gabi na po dito. But nice to be here, Sir Mon, and to all the listeners.
Okay, Jonathan, let's jump straight into the subject dahil napakarami tayong pwedeng pag-usapan. But first, let's start with you. No? How long have you been studying this subject of disinformation? Medyo bagong paksa ito. At saka what got you into this?
Yeah, so I think usapin po yung troll armies and fake news nung 2016, nung nanalo si President Duterte sa pagka-pangulo. So, yun po yung simula ng aking study. Na-publish siya ng Architects of Network Disinformation. And yung starting point po niya is, we were just really curious. Ako po, tsaka yung collaborator ko na si Professor Jason Cabañas of De La Salle in Manila. So, gusto naming alamin dahil parang ang daming usapin noong 2016 about fact-checking, parang paano ba natin i-target itong mga influencer, itong mga blogger, naalala naman natin, di ba, yung mga fake news queen back in the day, di ba? So, kilala natin sila. Pero gusto naming kilalanin ni Jason, sino ba yung boss ni Mocha? Sino ba yung mga top troll? And ano ba yung industriya na nagpapakalat ng disinformation?
Aha.
How are people recruited to become a troll? Nagbabayad ba sila ng buwis? Ito yung mga questions namin. And
Okay.
also, crucially, about their ethics and morality. How do these people sleep at night? 'Di ba, Sir Mon? Na parang how
Okay.
would anyone willingly sign up to become a troll? So, nung 2016, pagkatapos ng eleksyon, we scheduled meetings with campaign strategists of politicians and nagpakilala
Okay.
kami sa kanila kung sino yung mga digital strategists nila at binuo namin yung what we call the architecture of disinformation. So,
Oh,
itong
okay.
hierarchy of
Okay.
iba't ibang actors sa a disinformation network na hindi lang sila itong anonymous operator, hindi lang sila itong mga troll sa bottom, pero may boss sila, may influencers, may opinion leaders, may fake account operators, itong mga so-called trolls, 'di ba? Pero mababa lang sila sa hierarchy as you can see. Tapos meron din yung fans sa baba and the general public na sinusubukan nilang i-influence the grassroots intermediary. So, 2018 po nung na-release namin itong study na ito.
Okay, pero ang lumalabas dito sa the picture that you're showing, that particular graph, Jonathan, which I think we took from your study, ang lumalabas dito talagang industriya na ito. Hindi na ito, kumbaga, backyard operation. Talagang, kumbaga, may kumpanya-kumpanya ng gumagalaw na sa larangan na ito.
Opo, so normalized na siya, industriya na siya, and malaki yung kita sa troll operations. And kailangan lang din natin isipin na yung term natin na online trolls, medyo bago lang ito. 'Di ba? Medyo
Aha.
2016 lang itong troll armies na naging part ng ating vocabulary. Pero before troll armies, black ops, influence
Ah,
operation, black propaganda, ito yung mga tinatawag na natin. So, kailangan din natin mas malawak yung tingin natin sa troll operations. And
okay.
you're right, Sir Mon, na industriya siya, malaki yung kita, especially ng mga tao sa taas.
Usually, ganyan naman talaga, hindi ba, Jonathan? Pero, no, let's step back a bit, Jonathan. No? I mean, look at it from the wider perspective. Kasi, kumbaga sa politika, in love and war, yung black ops, yung mga ganyang klase mga taktika, matagal na yan, hindi ba? There have been disinformation also, even in traditional media, news, television, etc., etc. Pero what makes disinformation on social media different?
Yes.
Ano, mas malaganap ba to? Mas mahirap na ma-identify? Anong pagkakaiba?
Yes, ano po yung pagkakaiba? So, when it comes to social media, wala na tayong gatekeepers dito sa social media. As much as Facebook or Twitter would say that they have content moderators, here, kung mapa-viral ang isang hashtag, the country starts talking about it. The national agenda is influenced by something that goes viral. Right? Yeah. So on social media, the speed in which disinformation travels is so unprecedented. And at the same time, it can come from many different places. So unlike in the past na parang mainstream media, you mentioned na parang mga journalist. Dati, di ba, pwedeng bayaran yung journalist para mag-plant ng story, yung mga payola, yung mga envelopmental journalism. Matagal na nating alam yan. So dati may ganun. And of course, parang kailangan mong to go through these people. Ngayon, ang dami nang pwede magpakalat. Influencer man ito na medyo tanyag at kilala, or anonymous account na meme page, pwede din magpakalat ng narrative. So it's a wild west. It's an information war on social media. And the most powerful and the loudest voices and the most emotionally aggressive voices will prevail on social media.
Okay, but to your point, Jonathan, I just want to follow through on that. Kasi meron pang dagdag na elemento dyan sa social media. Kasi yung mga social media platforms, kumbaga, ang daming impormasyon, nakakalap sila tungkol sa iyo eh. So, hindi ba sabi nga nila, dahil sa mga algorithms ng social media, na binibigay niya sa iyo yung akala mong gusto mo.
Absolutely.
So mas
I
malaki
agree.
sa impact sa tao, hindi ba? Parang
Opo.
gano'n.
Opo. So, yes, and I totally agree na ito yung talagang epekto ng social media sa ating diskursong politikal, na how we treat each other on social media and how we discuss politics. Para siyang basketball game, kumbaga, na magkaaway, 'di ba?
Oo nga, oo nga.
Yeah, so talagang trash talking. Parang you don't when you disagree with somebody on social media, yeah, there's a layer of distance between you and the other person. So you treat them as your enemy, as your
Mhm,
adversary,
mhm.
rather than just a fellow citizen that you disagree with. 'Di ba? Parang isipin niyo naman po, sermon, 'di ba? Parang sabi nila, tayong mga Pilipino, may concept tayo of hiya, may concept tayo na of saving face, 'di ba, na
Oo,
we're
oo.
respectable and hospitable. Ganyan tayo one-on-one in person, but on
Hmm.
social media, yeah, we're the most vicious people on social media. It's a fandom on social media. So yung fan cultures natuturbocharge siya sa politika, na parang
Pero
we treat each other na as political camps, kumbaga.
bakit gano'n, Jonathan? I just want to dwell on that point for a while, no? Kasi I think it leads up to the effect of bakit napaka-emotional natin sa social media? Mas madaling magalit,
Mas
no?
madaling magalit, yeah.
Bakit gano'n?
Two things. I think the layer of distance between ourselves and the other person. So again, parang in a face-to-face context, Filipinos are actually quite respectful and parang magalang tayo,
Oo,
'di ba? Pero
oo.
on social media, dahil hindi natin nakikita yung ka-tweet natin, or 'di ba, yung kausap
Oo.
natin, we tend to be more vicious. Number two, yung algorithm din. Na parang yung algorithm talagang, if something emotional gets posted on social media, that tends to get a lot more likes, a lot more clicks and engagement. And ito yung pinupush ng social media sa
Mhm.
ating mga news feed. So both aspects of the distance, it's a sociological experience, but it's also a technological effect of the algorithm.
Okay, gosh, ang hirap. Kung ganyan ang sitwasyon mo sa if you know, if you're using social media, meron kang Facebook account or whatever. O sige, how does that play out na ngayon? Halimbawa, sa isang election campaign. So, ibig sabihin mo ba na, o nga, para nga itong basketball game, no? So, mas madaling, mas madaling palitawin nyo. O sige, kalaban niyang mga yan. Parang ganun, ganun. Is that how it that how it plays out?
Ito po yung sermon, yung konsepto ng echo chamber, 'di ba? Na parang
Hmm.
so syempre clout chasing ka din sa iyong political fan group, 'di ba? So
Hmm.
kung Marcos supporter ka, medyo clout chaser ka among fellow Marcos supporter. Kung kakamping ka, medyo you're trying to also post content that will appeal to your fellow kakamping. So that's echo chamber effects, na you tend to be like repeating and affirming each other, and there's like endless loops and cycles there. So and that's dangerous. So in this election cycle, because of the polarized political landscape, what we see on social media is completely different from what the other side sees or chooses to see. We
Okay.
refuse to believe in the surveys that will disagree with our emotional experience, right?
Aha.
And marami tayong nakitang gano'n na, so yung kabilang kampo naman, ang pinapanood na lang nila SMNI, ayaw na nilang magbasa ng Rappler. Yung kabila
Hmm.
naman, iba din yung media nila. Yung iba celebrity yung pinapanood, yung
Hmm.
iba influencer yung pinapanood. So super split ang ating information ecosystem. It's so hard to have conversations with the other camps. And that's why it's important to also go beyond social media when it comes to political organizing.
Okay, question. Let's go back kasi you brought up the question of scale again. No? Number one, gaano karami ba ang nare-reach nitong social media disinformation na to? I mean, to ask it in another way, kung may na-post, halimbawa na isang tweet or viral video like, sige, naka-TikTok, gaano karaming taong nakikita mong nanonood na mga ano? Just para magkaroon ng idea yung mga kababayan natin how big this is.
Yeah. So, of course, parang certain claims or posts pwedeng i-track quantitatively in terms of how many people yung nanonood. But to me, parang the real effects of disinformation campaigns and coordinated behaviors on social media is it changes the national debate and conversation.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so something that is seeded online, a perspective, a narrative that is seeded online, can change a whole national conversation. So, some examples that I have written about in the report, Architects of Network Disinformation, luma na po ito. But yung example ng ilibing na hashtag, so this was the hashtag that promoted the hero's burial of Marcos Sr. And it was a coordinated campaign and it was
Mm.
picked up by national media.
Mm.
Marami pang ibang example. Even nasaan ang Pangulo hashtag, which
Mm.
was yung hashtag na kumalat nung Mamasapano crisis after the death of 44 Special Action Force personnel, was obviously planted by anonymous influencers. And it
Mhm.
became part of our national conversation as to whether Noynoy Aquino, 'di ba, was a good crisis president and crisis leader. So yes, it has real consequences in terms of national conversations.
Okay. Na parang nasa-set yung kumbaga yung agenda para sa anong pinag-uusapan. Pero
Opo.
sino ang audience? Who's the main audience of this? Is it kasi offhand, iisipin ko yung mga bata ang talagang who are into social media. Is that the case now? Kahit matanda na yata nagpe-Facebook, di ba?
May mga study po ang aking mga colleagues dito sa Amerika na older people are more likely to share fake news. Sermon. So, yeah.
Okay.
So
Kami pala ang may kasalanan, Diyos ko po.
thinking about sino po ba yung mga nagpakalat ng medical misinformation about mga tuob at mga various vaccine, 'di ba parang COVID narratives?
Yes.
Yeah, sabi po ng mommy ko na part ng Viber groups Titas of Green Hills, ang
Mm.
dami daw niyang nakita from yung mga amiga niya sa Viber group. So older people are equally vulnerable as young people. Everyone is vulnerable, not just the uneducated, but even the most educated. In fact, yeah, the examples that I told you about, hashtag ilibing na, hashtag
Mm.
nasaan ang Pangulo, sino yung target nila? Ang target nila ay journalist mismo. So,
Okay, okay. Ganun
because,
sandali. Yun ba?
mm-mm.
Pwedeng i-pinpoint talaga, no?
So,
You can target.
opo, ang konsepto po nun is attention hacking. So, kung may mapatrend kang hashtag, ang objective po ng media manipulator is i-pick up siya ng mainstream media at i-report ito as a neutral discussion and news item, and therefore it changes the national debate and conversation. And therefore, journalists are targets na susunog sila,
Hmm.
right, ng disinformation campaigns.
So, ay paano ito, Jonathan, no? Hindi lang mga bata, hindi lang mga matatanda, even people who are supposed to be professionals in handling information, sila din ay natatarget din.
Opo, and ang sinasabi ko rin po sa mga kabataan ngayon na sila actually hindi lang sila target ng fake news, target
Hmm.
sila ng troll recruitment.
Oh, okay. Paano yun? Sige nga,
So,
pag-usapan natin yun. When you say troll recruitment, sino bang recruit?
ang recruit po mostly dun sa lowest level, parang dun sa hierarchy, 'di ba? Pinakita niyo yung hierarchy, itong
Yes.
community level fake account operators. Yan ang entry level post, and college graduates, fresh college graduates yung tina-target nila. So, and then ano ba yung job title ng mga trolls? Wala
Oh,
naman talagang formal job title na troll, 'di ba? Ang formal job title ng troll is PR associate, social media community manager, marketing associate,
Aha.
PR operator. So, ito yung mga entry-level jobs na our college students are being recruited in. So when I do lectures to college students in the Philippines, I tell them, parang I skip the part na parang, oh, watch out for fake news. I tell them, watch out to be recruited in the creative industries, especially to mga communication graduates. Kung may bala kayong sumali ng advertising firm, PR firm, digital boutique agency, ang title might be PR associate, pero baka ma-recruit kayo bilang political operator, i.e. troll. And ito yung isang kwento na kwento sa amin personally dun sa aming podcast na Catch Me If You Can with my co-host Kat Ventura. Yung episode 1 of Catch Me If You Can, it's a podcast available on Apple and Spotify. We hear the voice of Danny kung paano ba siya na-recruit. He applied for a job sa PR firm and yung title niya is PR associate. And then, nakatatlong round siya ng interview. Ang impression niya, corporate yung client niya. So, that would be like a shampoo brand, di ba? And then, first day of the job, dun lang niya nalaman, ay, si Mayor pala ang aking client. And iniba yung opisina niya. Hindi sa Quezon City, but dun sa location kung nasaan si Mayor tumatakbo.
Okay. I think we have that clip. Why don't we play that clip, Jonathan? Sandali. Para lang marinig na ng mga kababayan natin.
When I saw my professor, parang the chilling effect would be when I saw my professor, I saw my college instructor who's still, he's still a journalist to this very day. Nagkaroon siya ng one-on-one interview with our client. And then nagulat siya na, oh, nandito ka. Sabi niya, hindi ko, kaya ano ka na pala nag-work? Sabi ko, opo sir, ganyan. O, kamusta ka naman? Parang chilling effect yun. Kasi nakita mo yung taong nagturo sa'yo at graduate ka ng 4 years of college. And then makikita niya na nandito ka. You're doing the exact same thing that your teachers told you not to do. My college professor, I saw him dead in the eye and looking at me na parang he must be thinking, oh, he must be so disappointed with one of his students. And fresh grad ako noon. So, impossible na hindi kami matandaan. Kasi, kakagraduate ko lang eh. So, medyo fresh pa kaming student sa memory niya. Tapos, parang sabi ko sa sarili ko, parang, what am I doing with my life?
So, estudyante ito ng professor. Kumbaga, na-booking ng professor na siya pala ay nagtatrabaho sa isang troll unit or troll farm. Ganun ba yung storya ng individual na to?
Opo, si Danny. So, yung clip na narinig po ninyong lahat ay kung kailan nakonsensya na si Danny. So, parang yung professor niya, obviously, si Danny, parang medyo maisip natin, di ba, communication yung background niya, di ba? So,
Journalist daw, di ba?
yeah, journalist, yeah. And so, nakita niya yung professor niya na journalist din. And Dun siya natauhan at nahiya. Pero kwento sa amin ni Danny, bakit ka ba bakit ka dito pumunta? Nahirapan siya maghanap ng trabaho, number 1. And then sabi niya, susubukan lang niya kahit pinapagawa pala siya ng mga fake account, pinapagawa siya ng mga attack meme sa social media. Pero sabi niya, sige, for the experience na lang, hanggang medyo nakonsensya siya nung nakita na niya yung kanyang dating guro.
Okay, wow. Pero ibig sabihin dito, I mean, this is the impression I get from this discussion, Jonathan. Hindi ito, kumbaga, very common experience ito. Fresh graduates na rini-recruit para sa mga na communication ang background nila. Or
and usually sa mga ahensya, usually kahit din sa mga political like the official office of politicians, 'di ba? Usually ang mga ang job opening for fresh college graduates is social media. Because there's the impression that young people are fluent in social media practices and vernacular. So yes, please operate the account of politician so and so, or try natin pabanguhin yung pangalan ni mayor, etc. So and again, the job title is not hiring troll; it's hiring social media manager. And
Okay.
magugulat na lang sila na ay expectation din pala na gumawa ng fake accounts para sa kanila. Pero and I'll just add po sir mo na yes, kailangan po natin panagutin itong yung mga tulad ni Danny, pero yung mga boss ni Danny, yung pinaka dapat sumagot. Sino ba yung boss, the boss troll, the top troll? And importante na sila yung pinaka-responsable and sila yung kailangan nating bantayan.
Well, paano ba ito? I mean, wala kang maririnig masyado, no? Na wala namang opisina na sinasabing I'm a troll company. Wala nang sinasabing ganun, di ba? So, it's like a semi-underground economy.
Opo.
So does any law apply? I mean, isn't there some kind of requirement for disclosure? Kung ano bang negosyo mo?
Yes.
O wala bang ganun ngayon?
Sana po. And this is an advocacy that myself, I've partnered with Lente. Of course, the civil society group responsible for election integrity. Si Attorney Ona Caritos is the head of this. Sinusubukan po niya and matagal na po kaming nagtatrabaho towards a transparency initiative around political advertising, around influencer marketing for politics. Mahirap po itong and if viewers only know how hard Ona, myself and the rest of her team have worked on this, it's really hard because politicians themselves ayaw nila magpasa ng batas that might have an impact on their political operations because also may utang na loob din ang ating mga senador at mga kongresista sa mga political operators and troll managers. Aminin na natin yun.
Well, yeah, I can understand how that dynamic happens, no? Okay, sabihin natin ganyan na sitwasyon ngayon, no? Kasi it just struck me right now, no? Hindi lang naman politics ito di ba? Kahit negosyo, naggumagamit na talaga ng social media, no? Para buti sana kung totoo ang sinasabi, pero hindi mo alam Yung nga, paano mo malalaman? I mean, what can an individual do? Ako, Mon Isberto, gumagamit ako ng Facebook o ng Twitter o TikTok or whatever. How do I protect myself? Meron bang wala bang lusot itong ganitong klaseng sitwasyon?
Yes, magandang tanong yan. And yeah, I'm sure many of our listeners and viewers are really interested, especially in the wake of elections. Number one, kailangan natin aralin yung how disinformation actually works. So, sometimes tayo mga Pilipino mahilig tayo gumawa ng solusyon on our own. Pero marami pong mga journalists, academics na nagsulat na tungkol dito at alamin natin kung ano yung na-discover nila. Alamin natin kung anong mga approach in other countries that have worked as well. So I think education is so important. We need to be equipping our younger people with better media literacy and digital literacy, information literacy, especially under the next administration. Number two is to slow down your social media. So when you see something trend, when you see something that is emotionally arousing, that is triggering, like a physical response from you, slow it down. Parang take 10 seconds, take a deep breath, step out of social media for a bit. It might be something that is really triggering you to do, like, to trigger like a knee-jerk reaction. If you feel a sense of fear and anxiety, that is usually, like when someone seeds a crisis narrative, that is a sign of a disinformation actor. I mean, it comes from, so many places, right? Hindi lang siya from one camp or another. And number three, go out to communities. Have a lot of offline conversations. yeah, with your teachers, with your peers, have conversations, yeah, with people on the street, 'di ba, parang with taxi driver, etc. Have real physical conversations. Parang we are not going to solve disinformation just purely by troll hunting or going after easy targets on social media or canceling people on social media, but it's about building bridges. It's about having open conversations that will sustain us, that will inspire us.
At saka, well, just to add to that, Jonathan, kasi alam mo, my own personal experience and the experience ng mga kamag-anak ko at saka mga kaibigan, yung mga baling balita, hindi lang nanggagaling sa trolls o nagsimula sa troll, pero madalas na nagpapasa sa iyo yung mga kaibigan mo.
Opo, totoo po yan.
No,
Yes.
so, how do you deal with that? No? Kasi usually ikaw, nakatanggap ka ng isang post o sa Viber o sa ito may ganitong post na lumabas sa Facebook tapos sinishare niya ng ganon. Yung galing sa kaibigan mo, hindi naman siguro lolokohin ako nito. Yung pala siya ang naloko.
Opo, yeah. Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
So, and this is the Tita of Viber, Titas of Green Hills Viber group example. Like si mommy parang, kumain ka nito or ng ganyan, ng banana, that's a way to fight COVID, di ba? Nakita daw niya sa social media. Yeah, and mommy, san mo po yun napulot? Ay, sabi ni tita ganito sa Viber group. Yeah, so anyone can be a target. No one has, parang immunity against fake news or disinformation. Yeah, the other day I was guesting for another TV show. I ended up tagging the fake account of that person. So kahit ako nata-target, and that's why again we need to slow things down on social media. Yeah.
Tsaka isang parating sinasabi sa akin ng mga journalist friends ko, check the source.
Yes.
Ask the person na nagpadala sa'yo, saan galing ito?
Saan galing yan?
Di ba? Okay.
For sure.
One last question. Balik tayo dito sa mga trolls. No? Kasi meron akong notes na nakita dito na, sige, meron daw mga Facebook pages at saka mga influencers na ginagamit na channel for fake news.
Mm-hmm.
No? How can you recognize that? Anong pwede, is there a way that you can, kasi halimbawa, sports page or entertainment. Tapos yun, biglang lumalabas, may balitang ganito sa politika.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
So, dun sa architecture na pinakita namin, yun yung trabaho ng community level fake account operator. So, so may influencers dyan. Itong community level fake account operators, they will try to go into online communities. So, papasukin nila yung Facebook group or the Viber group dedicated to Titas of Iloilo, for example. And dun sila magkakalat ng balita. Your example po is parang fan page of PBA association, ganyan. Pwede din silang magpakalat ng political na mensahe sa sports pages. So, all of these can be polluted on social media. So once again, parang for all the listeners, itong mga communities and fan groups and Reddit pages na binabasa ninyo, slow it down. Parang when you see also someone try to reveal themselves na parang anonymous whistleblower, pwedeng planted din yan. 'Di ba? Ng kabilang kampo para sunugin yung kabila. So so don't often assume, 'di ba, na parang I am parang anonymous confession of a troll for Marcos. Not always, and that's why our research, we had to spend 2 hours with each of our participants. We need to interview them at length. Sometimes we also get people who say, "Oh, troll operator ako." And we have a lot of screening questions for them na parang, so how do you pitch your service to your client? And sometimes nare-reveal na parang, ay, low level lang pala to. Parang they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay. Well, sige, thank you very much for your time, Jonathan. No? So, ang takeaway ko sa iyo, isa sa mga takeaway ko sa usapan nito is slow down.
Yes. It's important also for our own mental health to take it easy to be gentle with ourselves during these troubled times, and of course compassionate with others as well.
O sige, okay, slow down, wag kang magalit kaagad, no? Wag kang mainis sa sarili mo masyado.
Totoo po
Tama-tama
yan.
yun. Thank you for bringing that up, Jonathan, because we'll be taking that subject up naman, how do you deal with the stresses and strains of these social media wars that are going on. But in the meantime, Jonathan, many thanks. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Thank you, Mon, and thank you to all the listeners. Please follow Catch Me if you can on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to hear from trolls themselves, but also we analyze what they say in our podcast.
Ay, naku, ang ganda no? Hear from the trolls themselves. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan Corpus Ong from the University of Massachusetts. And, oh, by the way, Ateneo de Manila University as well.
Thank
Sige.
you.
Maraming salamat, mga kapatid. Don't go away. Babalik po tayo.
Eksklusibo! Mainit-init na discount extended ngayong Mayo. Sa Satellite, 200 pesos off ang makukuha mo. Dahil ang Satellite Kit, 990 pesos na lang. Plus, may buy one take 2 months free load ka pa. Saan ka ba? Dito ka na sa abot kaya ang saya. Ano pang hinihintay mo? Punta na sa nearest dealer o tumawag sa sumusunod. Itodo na ang saya with Satellite!
Welcome back mga kapatid. Ituloy pa natin discussion tungkol sa mga bagay-bagay post-elections 2022. At isa sa mga talagang mga bagay na many people are dealing with, is actually yung emotional stress. Emotional stress na, lalo na, you just heard our discussion with Dr. Jonathan, no? Stress hindi lang sa tunay na buhay, stress sa social media, sa Facebook account, sa Viber niya. No? Anong epekto nito sa mga tao? At saka ano pwede natin gawin para naman ma-relieve yung stress? Medyo mag-chill muna tayo. No? Ang guest po natin na makakatulong sa atin sa usapan ito ay si Dr. Joan Rifarian. She is a fellow of the Philippine Psychiatrist Association. Well, good evening, Dr. Joan.
Hello, good evening, Sir Mon. At maraming salamat po for inviting me to your show.
Well, we have to invite you kasi balita namin marami talagang taong nangangailangan ng tulong. So kayo ba busy ngayon sa mga taong gustong kumusap sa inyo?
Yes po, Sir Mon. In fact, Sir Mon, itong during this time, alam natin na post-election, but hindi lang po kasi doon natatapos ang pwedeng maaaring sources of stress po na ating mga kapwa Filipino. So ongoing pa rin po ang pandemya, and ongoing pa rin po yung kasama po doon yung mga losses ng job, unemployment. So maraming sources of stress now, but just to jump in na lang po or add on to the first, yung mga discussions niyo po kanina, Sir Mon, with the first guest natin, si Dr. Jonathan. Yes, I agree po. In relation to that, isa po sa mga nagiging concerns ngayon, especially po sa aking pong personal experience, sa aking pong practice, is yung tumataas po ang levels ng anxiety, yung pangamba, takot, at lungkot, depression, because po of yung mga nababasa also sa social media. So, in fact, Sir Mon, itong panahon ngayon, lalo na post-election po, marami po ang yung mga naapektuhan po sa mga nababasa nila. Kaya, in fact, studies have shown, may mga studies po na nagpapakita na mataas po ang association between length of time spent on social media, yung ating pagsuscroll, may tinatawag po tayo doon, parang doom scrolling, yung pagsuscroll sa social media, and ang risk for having symptoms of anxiety and depression because of our yung mga nababasa natin na fake news, disinformation, misinformation, or for some sermon nag-aaway-away, nagkakasagutan, which can really add to the stress po.
Okay, pero may metrics na ba kayo, Doc Joan, dyan? I mean, for example, may threshold ba dyan if I spend 3, 4, 5 hours on social media? Kasi Filipinos, according to recent studies, number 1 in the world tayo. I don't know, mga kapatid, alam niyo ba? Filipinos for 6 straight years, number 1 in the world in terms of the time spent, number 1 on the internet. It's 10 hours and 56 minutes daw as of 2021. And on social media, 4 hours and 15 minutes every day. Diyos ko. Pero anong threshold? If I spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, where does it get bad na?
Yes po. Ang question kasi, Sir Mon, is always ang kailangan natin tandaan is kung meron na po itong mga negative impact na po on our functionality. Kasi sometimes naman po, it's also good. Kaya ang always nire-remind po namin is to find the balance. Kasi kailangan din po natin magbasa ng news, hopefully, mga verified information on social media for us to be updated kung anong nangyayari, ano na bang mga ngayon, what do we need to do during this type of pandemic, etc. Kailangan din natin po ng mga updates on that. But make sure lang po natin na hindi siya excessive. By the term excessive, Sir Mon, what we mean is that hindi na siya umaabot sa point na nakaka-apekto na siya sa time spent natin sa ating trabaho, time spent natin sa ating pag-aaral. Instead na mag-aral tayo, magtrabaho, gumawa ng mga bagay na kailangan natin gawin for our day-to-day activities like maglinis, maglaba, magplansya, hindi na natin nagagawa yon. And aside from that, is kung nagka-create na ito ng distress sa ating mga relationships, which is really very a crucial factor also, crucial element ito. Sometimes kasi umaabot na sa point na nagkaka-conflicts na even within families, with friends, with loved ones. So ayaw po natin na umabot sa ganon. Mga extremes na po yun. And those are some of the signs, or mga red flags for us to say na medyo baka excessive na masyado po yung ating pagbabad or sa pagbabasa po natin ng mga news on social media.
Dr. Julian, let me follow through on that point. No? What are the symptoms that you watch out for?
Yes.
Para malaman mo kung ikaw mismo o yung kapatid mo, kamag-anak mo, kaibigan mo, medyo, sobra na tayo. What are those symptoms that you watch out for?
Yes po. Lagi po natin tandaan, Sir Mon, pag any form of stress, in fact, halimbawa po, stress from excessive use of social media, any form of anxiety or stress po, nagmamanifest siya sa atin pong katawan cognitively, meaning brain functions can be affected, emotionally, and physically, at mga mga behaviors na atin pong ginagawa. So, cognitively, pag napansin po natin na parang because of too much engagement sa social media, parang nawawala na ng focus, concentration, mas umiiksi ang attention span. Memory is affected already. Kasi we know po na sa social media or sa internet po kasi mabilis, yung palitan po. Mabilis yung nag-change lagi by the minute po yung mga stories. So, yun po, studies have shown na nag-a-add din yun sa shortening of our attention span kasi sanay tayo na parang mabilisan po yung shifts in stories. Another po, yes po.
Doc, I mean, hindi...
Sa cognitive po yun, Sir Man. Cognitive po yan.
Mga bata, medyo, di ba sinasabi nila yun, very short ang attention span ng mga bata?
Yes.
Epekto
Yes
yan ng
po.
social media, at iba pa? Ano masasabi mo doon?
Yes po. Sir Mon, yung meron naman pong normal na attention span na range po yun. Range. It's always a range po. And the younger the individual is, the shorter ang attention span. So, yun lang po. Kailangan talaga monitoring, close monitoring po tayo. Especially kung mga anak po natin ay mas bata. Usually po pag adults like tayo, Sir Mon, yung ang attention span natin nasa medyo 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Kaya usually, Sir Mon, kung napapansin nyo, yung mga shows, yung mga lectures po, more or less ganyan, kasi nga nawawala ang attention span. But the younger they are, the shorter. Kaya sa mga schools po ngayon who are doing online classes, alam natin po na short ang attention span ng mga bata. Nagiging creative po ang mga teachers. So, in between, after 15 minutes, nag-exercise sila, or nag-aano sila, meron silang time na maglakad-lakad, to play with their mga toys. Pero to make sure lang po na nare-retain natin yung maximum or the efficiency po ng ating attention span. So, cognitive po yun, Sir Mon. So, other symptoms po or signs, emotional. Pag sobrang mainitin ng ulo po, laging nagagalit, laging frustrated at ang anger, which can affect na po yung relationships. Sometimes kasi ang anger, Sir Mon, we might we might not notice this, but kung sobrang highly emotional ang isang individual, parang sometimes may mga nasasabi na, may mga nagagawa na bagay because of the emotions and not really because of the logical or thinking part ng brain, yung nawawala yung objectivity. Physically naman po, Sir Mon, parang wala nang napapabayaan ng self-care. Kulang sa tulog because lagi pong nakababad sa gadgets even at night. And of course, the blue light impact sa atin pong brain also na it stimulates or it tells our brain na umaga pa, because it resembles yung yung sunlight na sa ating nagre-register siya as sunlight to our brain.
Gaano kalakas? If you could just explain that a bit more, Doc. No? Gaano kalakas ang epekto nitong mga blue light na to? Yung especially on sleep. I mean, is that a significant effect?
Yeah. Yes po, Sir Bon, kasi tandaan po natin na for us to get a good night's rest po, di ba po? Yung parang quality, ang tinitingnan po natin to, not just the quantity or hours of sleep, but of course, yung quality of sleep as well. So these are the two important factors po with regards to sleep. At pag tayo po ay nag-scroll pa rin or nanonood pa rin po ng mga videos, even from TV, there is that impact po ng blue light which can tell our brain na sige lang manood ka pa ng manood kasi umaga pa kasi nga po parang ang interpretation of our brain is that it's still morning because of that sunlight, yung effect na parang umaga pa, or so pwede ka pang manood ng manood. So kaya naapektuhan both the quality and the quantity po, the number of hours of sleep natin. And which is very important kasi po dapat, Sir Mon, yun. Lalo na sa mga bata, again, the younger, the dapat kailangan makuha nila yung right amount or number of hours of sleep because of yung mga secretion na mga very important na hormones when we sleep, like the melatonin, growth hormone. Kaya yung mga bata, gusto natin po na tulog sila po, wala silang gadget sa kanilang bedroom because that's the time when the growth hormone is secreted na yung nagpapatangkad po sa kanila, and it helps with their growth, overall growth and development.
Sige, Doc, I want to ask you yung mga tips later on what to do, but before that, kasi parang ang isang naiisip ko, okay, itong current situation ngayon,
Yes po.
Maraming mga mababalitaan ka kwento na in-unfriend na niya yung lahat ng mga kaibigan niya na hindi ka kasunod dito sa nangyari sa eleksyon na ito.
Yes.
O nakikipag-away. What can you say about that? Anong mapapayo mo doon sa mga kapatid natin who are, doing that, or meron silang kamag-anak o kaibigan who are doing that? What can you advise them to do?
Yes po. First, Sir Mon, kailangan maintindihan po natin kung saan nanggagaling ito. Ano po kaya ang root cause ng mga mga conflicts or arguments na ito? Pag ang isang individual po kasi, Sir Mon, ay dumadaan sa isang grieving process. Grieving meaning pagluluksa because of any form of loss, be it loss of an opportunity, changes in job, loss of employment, loss of something, kahit na tangible na object po. When we go through losses in life, may grieving process po na pinagdadaanan at may mga stages po yun. So denial, anger, so very important po yun na may anger talaga as part of the grieving process, bargaining, depression, until po na such time na makaabot tayo doon sa stage of acceptance. No, we can go back and forth. So, pag nasa anger phase po tayo, dun po, medyo heightened ang emotions and sometimes na-overpower ang ating logical or thinking brain po with our emotionality. Kaya po, sometimes talaga, pag differences in opinions, it can lead to that, na nag-aaway-away, na hindi natin nakukuha, wala tayo sa frame of mind na to understand kung saan nanggagaling yung ating kausap. Kaya mas maganda po for situations like this, ang pinapayo po namin lagi is to, kung talagang toxic po, quote-unquote, parang medyo argumentative na, combative na po ang ating mga kausap, do not engage. Mas maganda po, let's not engage. Kung tingin po natin is nagiging unhealthy na ang conversation. Give each other that space and the time to go through the grieving process po. Kasi again, normal po yun. Normal, a part siya ng grieving process. So, let's give each other time and space. Pero wag naman sana yung unfriend ka agad. Kasi we know na in life, it's always a spectrum. Hindi naman kailangan unfriend ka agad. So baka lang, we may use other options like mute button or hide button para naman po hindi ka agad unfriend, which is medyo extreme na po yun. So, may mga options po na gano'n. And what we also emphasize, Sir Mon, sa aming practice, no, is because of this infodemic now, kasama na dito, itong during this time of elections. Sabi nga nila, Sir Mon, di ba, during this time of pandemic, may also ongoing na infodemic, which is information epidemic, na, because of the overload of information. We recommend digital detox. What does this mean? Kung pwede sana, detox, meaning let's have a gadget-free day, for example, or kung hindi kaya ng isang araw na wala, kahit mga mga bursts or mga tigwa 1 hour per day na naka-off tayo or naka-mute ang ating mga notification buttons for us to also po, nakatulong ito sa pag-lower ng ating pong cortisol levels or the stress hormone. No? Kasi nga, again, sometimes it can be really stressful na po in the online world.
Well, kahit di ba Doc, kahit sa trabaho, I've read some literature sinasabi na dapat yung notifications button mo off, no?
Yes.
Tapos dapat tumingin ka lang sa device mo once in an hour or once in 2 hours para hindi masyadong distract yung utak mo.
Correct po. Correct po. Yes, Sir Mon. Kasama po yun sa mga tips po on digital detox kasi up to the person pa rin naman kung saan siya comfortable or kung saan yung kaya niyang gawin. Depende also po sa need, no, to check our phone. Ano, kung halimbawa po, Sir Mon, na on duty ka, on call ka sa hospital, hindi kaya, no, na i-mute mo. But kung kaya, as long as kung kaya naman po sa ating schedule, we can always make use of yung mga mute button, hide button, at check it lang po kung siguro at the end of the day, kung di naman talaga po, mga group chats, usually group chat, chika, differences in opinion. So, yun, kahit at the end of the day mo na lang babasahin or sa weekend. Ang isang part also of digital detox, Sir Mon, na nakakatulong kasi you spoke about sa trabaho po. What we also advise is kung pwede po, limit natin yung sending emails or text messages po during the weekend for us to be able to reclaim our weekend. Yung iba pong opisina, Sir Mon, they have this parang guidelines na wala nang emails or text messages beginning at 5 p.m. on a Friday until until Monday ng 8 a.m. Kasama po yun. Part also po siya of detox for us to be able to reclaim our weekend. Especially this time, Sir Mon, no, na parang nawawala na yung boundary between work and professional life. So kailangan we remain mindful. Mindful po tayo of that.
Yun ang mahirap nawawala na yung mga boundaries na yan yung personal life, yung work life, o yung no. Pero jumping out of detox naman muna. Pero
yes po.
Ito narinig ko na rito. Is it also advisable na yung ginawa ng iba kasi nag-crying session sila na sabay-sabay. Minsan face-to-face, yung iba naman online. No? Nakakatulong ba yun? Na ilabas mo na lang kaysa na, is it generally better that you get it out rather than just keeping it in? Tama ba yun?
Yes, Sir Mon, definitely po. Mas maganda pa rin sa grieving process, balikan po natin yung proseso kayo na which is normal. Again, normal po talaga yon. In fact, lahat tayo ngayon, we are going through all sorts of emotions and reactions. Mas maganda, we have that opportunity to express it. Hanap lang po, kasi mahirap din kung i-express natin yon with someone na medyo hindi naman, baka lang mag-argue lang tayo. So, find a trusted person or trusted group, for example, na kung saan pwedeng mag-express tayo, we can cry. Really, there is a need to cry. Trusted po ang ating support system, mas maganda po. Or kung tayo po ay, may mga personalities din kasi, Sir Mon, na medyo sila, introverted, medyo shy sila to express it. They express it through, halimbawa po, journaling. Nagjo-journal sila. Doon nila nilalabas yung kanilang emotions. Yung iba naman po, nilalabas nila through music, through playing musical instruments, painting, drawing, cooking. So, meaning po, mas maganda pa rin. Ang bottom line po is, mas maganda always to express it kasi it's part of the process po towards healing from this from this grieving state natin ngayon po. Part siya ng healing po. We are able to express it in a healthy manner. Kasi Sir Mon, may mga iba nag-express sila ng kanila emotions pero medyo not so good, not so healthy, not so productive. So, mas maganda tandaan natin, focus tayo doon sa mas healthier ways of coping.
Okay, let's spend the last few minutes here on going back to digital detox. No? Kasi nga,
Opo.
the big challenge there, Doc, is that, the cell phone is hawak-hawak mo all the time.
Yes.
Okay? Then, you get notifications on your Viber or your Facebook or your Messenger na, every minute. Di ba? Kasi, lalo na kung marami kang groups, tuloy-tuloy yung dating. So, what do you advise? Especially ako, ang iniisip ko ngayon yung mga bata eh. What
Yes
should
po.
parents advise yung mga bata? No? Kasi ang hirap
Yes.
nito. Kasi yung mga bata ang malakas gumamit eh. Pero how can you communicate to them?
Yes.
The importance of controlling this in some way para hindi sila ma-overwhelm ng ganito. Hindi sila lalaki na ganito ang frame of mind nila tungkol sa social media and information. What can you advise parents?
Yes, that's very important, Sir Mon, kasi we know na ito pong as mentioned ni Dr. Jonathan kanina sa first part, no? Ito po kasing generation na ngayon ng mga kabataan, sila po yung they belong to the Gen Z and Gen Y. Sila po yung ang tawag po natin sa kanila mga digital natives. Sila po yung second nature na nila, na may hawak sila. Nung pinanganak pa lang po sila, may hawak na silang gadgets, be it iPhone, phones or tablets. So, kasi may dynamic po kasi, no? So may changes na rin po through generation. So sila yung digital natives po. Ang mas maganda pa rin po, highlight natin, empower the parents po na sila pa rin ang may responsibility. Malaki ang kanilang responsibility to monitor, number one, yung gadget use ng kanilang mga anak. In fact po, may mga guidelines, no, na halimbawa, Sir Mon, 1 year old, less than a year old, dapat nothing, no gadget, except if you are to do video calls with your relatives. Yun lang, but limit it. So, ang mga parents po, let's always remember na you have to empower yourselves talaga na kayo po ang mag-guide, mag-monitor ng use. If you can, set limits always, boundaries. So, for example, set mga digital-free zones in your homes na pag dining area, no gadgets po talaga yon, or bedroom, wala.
Ganon.
Yes, which is talagang responsibility ng parents yun, Sir Mon, to really enforce it, no? To be really strict about it, na digital-free zones in your homes, limit, and find the balance. Again, balansehin po natin, kasi sa ngayon, Sir Mon, digital native sila, kailangan din nila yon, lalo na kung talagang online classes, they need that para to socialize, na with their friends, kasi matagal na sila hindi nakikita. So, kailangan din nila, but set limits. Kung kailangan, few hours only, at monitor also kung anong sites yung kanilang mga pinupuntahan. Kasi we know na sometimes there can be mga online predators there. So, mas maganda, babantayan talaga natin. Kaya, very crucial po ang guidance and monitoring of our parents and to find that balance always.
Okay, Doc, I'm sorry we ran out of time. Thank you very much for joining us tonight and sharing those insights and suggestions. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Sir Mon, and more power to your show. Thank you po.
Okay, Dr. Joan May Rifariel, Fellow of the Philippine Psychiatric Association. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you
Okay,
po.
mga kapatid, yan po ang show natin ngayon. So, maraming salamat ulit doon sa ating dalawang guests tonight. Many insights. At sana mayroon kayong napulot na magagamit nyo sa araw-araw na buhay. At maraming salamat din po sa ating lahat, mga kapatid. Thank you for joining us tonight. Laging tandaan, malaki po ang pakinabang ng mga gadgets tulad na sinabi ni Doc John. Pero teka muna, think before you click. Slow down, sabi nga ni Jonathan. Ako po ulit, si Mon Isberto, ang inyong tech lolo. Magandang gabi po mula dito sa amin sa Teka Muna. At kami po ang 1PH, Teleservisyo para sa Pilipino.
No reason to miss out on movie nights or your favorite weekly series when you link your Signal account on Signal Play. Just log in to signalplay.com, enter your Signal prepaid or postpaid account, and unlock the same awesome content right on your mobile device. Tara sa Signal Play. Link your account and get a free premium. Available to active postpaid plans $520 and up and prepaid loads $500 and up.
Mga programang mapapanood ngayong Sabado ng gabi sa 1PH. Hatid sa inyo ng PLDT Home. May gamot sa nararamdaman mong feelings. Susunod na. Hatid sa inyo ng PLDT Home.
Sabado night, once again, mga amigo at mga amiga, mga marit pare, mga kantita at kantita. Live na live tayo ngayong gabi para sa usaping feelings at katatawanan. Biktima ba kayo ng pag-ibig? Tara, usap tayo. Ako po ang inyong ka-feeling tuwing Sabado night, ang inyong profesor ng pag-ibig, Stanley Chi.
Kamusta naman ang sex at love life natin, mga chong, chang, nay, tay, at mga kasanggang dikit ko dyan? Ako naman po ang inyong karamay sa inyong pinagdaraanan, ang inyong sexy mind doctor, Rica Cruz. At ngayong gabing ito, papastan, dumating na ang oras para pag-usapan natin ang inyong feelings.
Live tayo sa 1PH, Digital TV Channel 1 at sa Radyo 5, 92.3 News FM, pati na rin sa Facebook page at YouTube channel ng 1PH at sa Signal Play app. Okay, happy Sabado night, mga ka-feeling.
Oy, bago ang lahat, happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Happy
Mga ka-feeling, nung nakaraang araw ay nag-birthday po si Papa Stan. At ngayon ay doble na po siya ng kalendaryo.
Alam nyo, ganun pala feeling pag magta 30 years old ka na. Mawawala ka na sa kalendaryo. Pero maraming salamat sa mga bumati sa mga hindi bumati sa akin, kilala ko kung sino kayo.
Akala ko ba bawal ang fake news dito?
Bawal nga fake news.
Ay,
Pero,
nagsasabi mo dyan?
ang ginagawa ko, historical revisionism. Mauuso yan ngayon. Abangan nyo lang.
Ay, nako.
Joke lang.
Doon lang po tayo sa totoo. Okay.
Ano yun pang Monday to Friday yun. Sa totoo lang.
Alas sa isa.
Di ba, pang ano yan pang balita yan
Okay.
Simulan na natin ang Sabado night sa mga mainit na balita. Eto, magandang balita sa mga sumasahod ng minimum wage sa Metro Manila at Western Visayas. May umento kayo. Eto pa, may rollback ng gasolina.
Oy, napakagandang balita niyan. So, ibig sabihin ng aumento, madadagdagan.
Yes.
Madadagdagan yung sweldo nila, yung minimum wage. Tayo rin, di ba?
Hindi, sila lang. Sila lang. Abangan nyo na lang kung kailan.
Direk! Brother Eric, baka naman.
Brother Eric sabi niya, madadagdagan 150.
1 Tapos, hindi lang madadagdagan yung sahod nila, mababawasan pa yung, ano mabawasan? Presyo ng gasolina.
Oo, di ba?
Uy, ang saya niyan.
Alam nyo ba, higit sa 100 na ang kumpirmadong tinamaan ng bagong COVID-19 Omicron subvariant. Sinasabi na nga namin sa inyo, ingat-ingat, may social distancing pa rin, mag-face mask kayo dahil may pandemya pa rin.
May pandemya pa rin nga, mga
talaga,
mga ka-feeling, at pero parang wala na pag nasa labas ka.
Siyempre, walwalan Nagwawalwalan kasi kayo Huwag ganun. Dapat alam nyo pa rin na pandemya pa rin, ha? Okay.
Mag-ingat pa rin. Mag-mask pa rin tayo. Kasi sabi naman ng mga pag-aaral, nakakatulong talaga ang pagmamask para mapigilan ang paglaganap nitong COVID-19.
Oo, mag-mask, maghugas ng kamay at mag-ingat.
Ayan.
Eto, dating MMDA Chairman Ben-Hur Abalos, magiging DILG Secretary ng susunod na administrasyon. So, kung sino man yung mga masasama sa bagong administrasyon, galingan nyo. Sana, galingan nyo.
Madaming nanonood sa inyo.
Oo. Konting galaw nyo lang.
Alam
Nakatutok
na.
kami. Parang sabi lang channel yun.
Oo nga eh.
Nakatutok. Yun lang. Hanggang dun lang.
Hanggang dun lang.
Ito, balitang sports. Congratulations sa UP Fighting Maroons. Nasungkit ng Fighting Maroons ang UAAP title ngayong talunin nila ang Ateneo Blue Eagles 72-69. Makasaysayan ang kampyonato ito dahil 1986. 1986 pa. Nang huli nilang mauwi ang UAAP Championship. Panahon pa nila Benji Paras at ni Ronnie Magsano.
Oo nga, para hindi ka pa pinapanganak noon, di
Di pa
ba?
ako pinapanganak niya ni. Ako nagre-research lang ako.
Sige.
Nakikita ko sa Wikipedia.
Congratulations sa UP Men's Basketball Team. At syempre, congratulations din sa Ateneo Blue Eagles. Napakagandang laban.
Ganda ng laban.
At patas. Alam mong patas, kitang-kita mong walang dayan na nangyari.
Maganda laban.
At ginawa talaga nila lahat ng
Galing
makakaya
talaga.
nila para...
Richie Rivero, you're the man. Swerte si Blight eh. Swerte, lucky charm na yun.
Ay,
Ito, isa pang nakaka-proud. Mga atletang Pilipino tuloy ang paghakot ng ginto sa SEA Games 31.
Yay!
At Gilas Pilipinas, biyaheng Vietnam mamayang gabi para lumahok sa SEA Games.
ilan na ba ang ating gold?
Ito
Alam mo ba?
syempre, panayang hakot, binibilang pa. Binibilang pa nila,
Binibilang
Brother
pa?
Eric.
Okay.
Nila, Misty, no? So, ayan, congratulations sa UP Fighting Maroons. Inuulit namin. Sana, next year, maganda laban. O, UST. Ano ba, UST? Mag-Final Four naman kayo ulit.
Grabe ka! Okay.
Kaya lang, ini-encourage ko sila. Naka-yellow ko, UST. Ganun.
Oo, volleyball na, no? Volleyball na yung next. Tama ba?
Hindi, basketball yung yung pinapanood ko kasi.
Kaya nga, pero yung gayon, tapos na yung basketball, volleyball na yung...
Volleyball, oo. Women's volleyball pinapanood. Dahil,
Maglalaro ba yung kasamahan natin dito si Gretchen?
hindi. Retire na yun eh. Oo nag-newscaster na eh.
Okay.
Pero nung mga panahon din, talagang nanonood din ako. Ibang klase.
Iba, oo.
Laban nila.
Syempre.
Alam mo,
Ano na
nag-cheer din
naman?
ako eh.
Anong cheer mo?
Galing. Natatakot ako lumapit doon kasi parang malakas siya manampal. Volleyball player, di ba mga ganun? Kayo jowa ng volleyball player, malakas.
Grabe ka! Walang sampalan nangyayari.
Hindi,
Huwag
nananampalan
tayong
bola,
violence
diba? Nagaganon,
dito.
oo.
Okay.
Yan. Mga ka-feeling, bukas ang ating programa para sa inyong mga kwento at katanungan tungkol sa pag-ibig, relasyon, mga kakaibang karanasan o problema na gustong malampasan, wag lang sa utang at demandahan.
Nandito kami kung kailangan nyo ng simpleng kausap o di kaya simpleng tagapagpayo kung kayo ay naguguluhan sa inyong buhay-buhay o buhay pag-ibig.
Ang pag-uusapan natin ngayong Sabado night, saktong-sakto sa panahon ng topic tonight, how to move on po.
Paano mag-move on?
Move on. Mula sa pag-ibig, relasyon, away, kahit itong nagdaang eleksyon. Kailangan nating matuto kung paano naiwan ang nakaraan. Ang mga pananakit na nagawa at masasakit na nadama. When is the best time to move on and how do you move on? Tara, usap tayo dahil ang feelings, kakampi mo.
Bata mo ba? In 3 years?
Hindi.
Kailangan kakampi ka?
Hindi.
Okay.
Kakampi mo ang feelings, di ba? Tawag na kayo sa aming hotline 8633-0072 at 8632-7332 at i-share ang inyong kwentong pag-move on.
Okay. Alam mo pa, Bastan, sa palagay ko, yung nakaraan, hindi yan dapat kinakalimutan.